Good evening everyone. Welcome to my channel. I've got something a bit different for you today. I'm not going to be reading a story because my friend Aradhna Tayal has written a piece based on one of my earlier stories. It was story number 16, An Equation for Happiness. So she's come up with a piece which is also based on 5 random words as below. And her piece is a sort of kind of a companion piece to mine. So you may want to watch episode 16 before you watch this one. It still stands alone, but it might help to put it in context. Just in case, I've included 16 as the follow-on video from this one. So anyway, I shall hand you over to Aradhna.
Hello, I'm Aradhna. I wrote my 1,000 word story inspired by one of Gavin's earlier tales, An Equation for Happiness. As I listened to the story, I was wondering what was going on outside the monastery and what Emiliana's story was. So I hope you enjoy it. Emiliana panted as she pushed her bike up the last stretch of hill to the monastery. It was a hot, sticky day in early summer. Large bags laden with groceries for the monks swung on each handlebar, bouncing against her thigh as she pressed on. She paused to adjust the bag, turning it round so the outline of the glass cider bottle within faced away from her. Reaching the monastery gate, she gratefully leant the bike against the wall and collapsed next to it, wiping the back of her arm across her brow and pulling her dress away from the damp skin on her chest. As she caught her breath, Emiliana gazed down past the trees lining the hillside, beyond the small town nestled at the foot, to the vast Adriatic Sea. She had spent her whole life by that sea, with its salty taste on her lips and skin. Even here, in the humid heat up on the hill, she could smell the ocean and almost hear the gentle lull of the waves. Soon, it would just be a memory, a longing somewhere inside. She was bound for the city. The recession had hit hard across Italy, and these small coastal villages were on their knees. Labourers returned home from abandoned construction sites, spending more than they had earned to drown their worries. Guest houses lay destitute and shops were boarded up. Emiliana had passed a queue of neighbours outside the grocery store at the end of the market street, slipping in ahead of them to claim the rich delights already bagged up for delivery to the monastery. As she pushed herself off the wall to relieve the bike of the heavy bags, she wondered whether the monks had any idea of the happenings in town, indeed across the whole country. She banged hard on the thick wooden gate. She hoped that Brother Palermo would answer. He usually did. A sweet and slightly peculiar old monk, he had a ready smile and always helped to carry the bags, unlike some of the other stern, taciturn monks. Brother Jessup in particular would approach with a scowl and stubbornly stared at a point somewhere above her left shoulder as she spoke. The gate creaked open and she was met with the smiling face of Brother Palermo. He had twinkly eyes and there was something almost childlike in his demeanour. Emiliana twinkled back at him. "Afternoon, Brother Palermo. It's been a roaster." "It has. Let me help you." They carried the bags through together. Brother Palermo sat down jovially on the stone bench in the courtyard, indicating for her to join him. Emiliana enjoyed their brief chats. The monk always had some pithy anecdote from the week, and she very much enjoyed the levity and relief they afforded from the bleaker times below. Alas, this was not an indulgence for today. "I really can't stay to chat. I have to be off soon," she said. "Oh?" Brother Palermo looked disappointed. "I'm going to Verona." She paused and then added slightly defiantly, "I'm moving in with my boyfriend." Brother Palermo looked taken aback, She could scarcely believe she'd said the words out loud, and to a monk. Emiliana had been in love with Angelo since school. She'd watched him hauling crates across the yard by the fish shed as she walked home from school every lunchtime, slowing her pace ever so slightly and shyly peeking through her curls. A few years later, she sat on the wall with her friends, watching him man the pumps at the mechanic shop. When the constructions had started, she'd watch him speed away in the back of the truck with the other young men from the town. And on their return, she was amongst the group of girls, walking purposely by, giggling flirtatiously. One day, she'd sat on the wall by the ice cream vendor, playfully swinging her slim legs. She had tied her hair to one side with a blue ribbon and coloured her lips a soft pink. Angelo had walked straight over to her and leaned against the wall, looking at her with hooded eyes and a curl on his full lips. He bought her an ice cream and they had kissed until sunset. Emiliana had been soundly scolded by her mother for being late for dinner, but she hadn't heard a word of it. 2 years later, no more trucks went to the construction site and there was no work to be had in town. A friend of Angelo's had written to him from Verona, beseeching him to come and join him, promising work and riches to be had. And where Angelo went, Emiliana was determined to follow. Nobody knew her plan. She didn't dare imagine what her mother would say when she found out. This afternoon was the planned departure. She had already packed a small bag and would meet Angelo in 1 hour when her mother would be away with Aunt Marie. I didn't know you had, stammered Brother Palermo. Emiliana flushed. It just burst out of her. Oh, it's off and on, she faltered, not knowing what she was saying. She looked down in shame. But Brother Palermo smiled kindly. Emiliana, I wish you all the best. Let's toast your future. He took the bottle of cider from the bag and deftly locked it open. He took a sip directly from the bottle and offered it to her. Emiliana laughed in disbelief and relief. Oh, what the hell? She took the bottle and took a long swig from it. The sweet, cool drink sent a welcome shiver through her. She felt elated and fearless. Take it with you, said the kindly monk. Goodbye, Emiliana. I'll pray for your safe and happy journey. Emiliana took another sip and nodded at the monk. Turning back to her bike, she carefully cycled back down the hill, still carrying the bottle in one hand, towards the sea and on to her future.
Yeah, so there you have it. Hope you enjoyed that little guest spot, and do subscribe and share if you would like to. And the video which will appear at the end of this as a suggestion is the one that this is a companion piece to. So do try and watch that as well if you haven't already. Okay, thanks very much. Bye.